Hello, everyone. It's good to have you here with us as I chat with Ms. Lee-Ann Pierre of Trinidad and Tobago. During this period of the COVID-19 pandemic, the CVE continues to seek ways to support our parents, teachers, and students during this time in the field of education. Ms. Pierre is quite versed in this field, and she will share some things with us today. So, Ms. Pierre, welcome.
Thank you very much, Anderson, for having me.
Thank you. So, one of the first things we'd like to talk about today would be the process that our Caribbean educators may have to adopt with regards to teaching our students. So, can you tell us some more about that?
I really would like to just stress the fact that this is not the usual distance learning or online learning that one would have met pre-COVID. This is really remote learning taking place as a result of a response to a crisis, and it is distinctly different from what would normally take place in distance learning. Distance learning would require months of preparation from teachers before a course is completed, and it would have undergone many iterations. Also, of course, distance learning is often optional, so it's something that mostly adults would choose to engage in. And of course, this period is also significantly different from the traditional classroom setting. And I think it's really important as we engage about this topic that people understand that there is a difference between this remote learning and what usually takes place in a distance learning setting.
Thinking about it as educators, what can we do to assist our students as we move forward during this period of time?
I think to begin, it is really important to understand the social emotional impact of what has taken place. And so one of the first things I tell teachers is that during this period, we need to focus a lot on the well-being of our students. Our students have been away from the classroom since March. When you speak to the young people, they will tell you they are missing the classroom and they're missing that social interaction. And there have been many reports about the negative impact of COVID-19 on teenagers and having them shelter in place. They are not accustomed, so it's been very difficult. And so when we restart teaching, I really want, that teachers spend some time just asking students how they are, trying to find ways to support them. And it should not just be, let's get back to the content, let's jump straight right into the lesson. Additionally, I would like to make a plug that administrators as well check in with your staff members. Principals and vice principals, school supervisors are really significant during this period because we have to also ensure that our staff feel supported. Staff members may have also been affected by COVID-19, either directly or indirectly. And so we do not want anybody who is probably not in a place where they should be to be interacting with children. And so it's really important that we consider the social emotional aspect during this remote teaching period. I think it is really crucial that we communicate with parents. The reality is parents are now our co-teachers during this period, and so we need to really communicate a lot with the parents. I feel it's really important that before any teaching starts, that parents are apprised of what system we are going to be using, that they do have some say and that their voices are heard. And so when teaching actually starts, we are all on the same page. We should not assume that parents know how to use some of the online tools, just like some of the teachers are now engaging in learning. And so as part of the whole training and the whole success of the program, I would say that it is really important that parents are brought into that role of understanding what is now expected of them. And it should be very clear and laid out in a very step-by-step manner. And we also need to ensure that it is not tedious and overwhelming because remember, parents are also experiencing this crisis. And so again, it goes back to that whole focusing on social emotional impact of this period. So in terms of actual teaching, one of the biggest misconceptions I think that happens when people go into an online setting is thinking about the technology. And I want to say upfront, the focus is still very much on teaching, still focused very much on the pedagogy. We must think about what we need to teach and then think about which tools would be useful in getting across the message in the most effective way. And so, of course, when we think effective, we then have to begin to think about who we are targeting. So interacting with a 3-year-old is going to be different to interacting with a 12-year-old or interacting with a 16-year-old in terms of technology. How much screen time would you have, would you assign to a 3-year-old that may be different to a 16-year-old? Or what kind of projects can I give? How can I assign independent work? Because at all levels, you can assign independent work. In some cases, it's easier. And in some cases, you may need the parents to be a more critical part, play a more critical part, depending on the age of the student. So I want to really stress with teachers, think about your content, think about how you're going to deliver the content, and then think about which tool is going to help you to use to best achieve that goal. So the other question might be then, how do I know which technological tool is going to best deliver what I want? And I'm saying to teachers, there are lots of tools, but do not get overwhelmed. Familiarize yourself with one or two of them. Check, the different sources, look and see, play with them first before you use them. Make sure you're comfortable with them, and then engage in use in your classroom. So, for example, there are lots of online games, there are lots of resources already set up, and so you don't need to go reinvent the wheel. And I'll put a plug in here for 21st Century Educators. There are many free resources which we do reviews on and we share links to, so please go check out the page, as well as on Caribbean Visionary Educators website. There are a number of resources posted under the technology section. So I would definitely suggest the teachers just go out and read, and then of course share. We encourage sharing. So make sure if you find something that works, share it with your colleague, right? We don't all have to do the research ourselves. So I think the other thing in terms of, so you have decided which tools you're going to use now and you get into your classroom. Just like in a physical setting, there are things that you do. So I would suggest you set expectations. Chat with your students about what your rules are, what is going to happen now on your online space. So for example, we would not suggest that you force students to use their cameras, because in some cases, we don't know what the student's home situation is like, and so therefore, we don't want to tell them they have to turn on their cameras. However, you can encourage them, if they can, to turn on their cameras. And in that case, then we need to set ground rules of what your appearance is going to look like while on screen. We don't want to encourage them to come in with their pajamas, because then even with that, they don't feel like they're getting ready for a class. But at the same time, we don't have to use like a school uniform. So we want to have balance in that setting. We want to consider, for example, having rules, just like you would insist your students come to class by a particular time. We want to tell them your class is 11 o'clock, so therefore you should be signing in by 5 to 11 to ensure that even if you have tech issues, you are there on time. If you are not going to be present, then just like a message would have been sent from your parents, the same thing needs to occur. And so when you establish these rules from upfront, it helps to make your online space much safer and as well more functional and more effective. So we're going to talk about, there are asynchronous and synchronous. Asynchronous means when you are not live. Synchronous means live. So that's like when you're on Zoom, etc. In the live classroom, a lot of teachers say they struggle with how to get their students to relate. So I would say, just like in the classroom, you have to find ways to connect, non-academic ways. So for example, you may start off with a joke. You may have students starting off with a joke or share an experience. Maintain the relationship building aspects during the remote learning. So you may want to have polls, for example, just to indicate what type of mood students may be in when they enter your classroom. Or you may want to just ask them to talk about how they're handling their stress, or maybe just something that's not even related to your content. And then you can get into your teaching. Try to make it fun. Don't be the only one speaking. during your class. Ensure that there are many opportunities for your students to respond. It can be responding with gestures, or it can be responding using the reaction buttons, or even with emojis, but at least you know that they are participating. Of course, having polls so you can check to see the numbers that are responding. You can have sections where they are responding verbally. And of course, many of the live tools such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets will have it very soon. They also have the breakout rooms where you can now have your students work in groups and produce something. So you can actually check to see if progress is being made while a live session is going on. And of course, there are also some online tools such as quizzes. There's Quizlet that you can actually track progress while your students are playing in these games. And there are many tools like it outside there. In the asynchronous classroom, where you are posting work, I would strongly suggest that you find ways to post work which is interactive. So for example, you can use Google Forms at the end of a presentation to ask them a few questions, which you can then track to see how many students answered. You have things like Edpuzzle. So if you post a video in Edpuzzle, there are questions along the way, which you can also track to see how many students have gone on and done the work. You can use, as I mentioned, quizzes. There's also Flipgrid, which allows your students to record a video response to you. So there are several tools out there that you can use, even in the asynchronous setting, that can allow students to be tracked. And so even in terms of your presence is still there. And very important, it is essential during this period that your students are getting feedback from you. Now, feedback does not mean that you're setting up work that you then have to manually correct all the time. Feedback means you set up a multiple choice using Google Forms, or you set up a multiple choice using GoFormative, or you set up a multiple choice using a myriad of tools out there. So you can use Quizalize, you can use Class Marker, and those tools, you set it up in such a way that the feedback is automatic. There will be some cases, like for example, in essay writing, etc., where you are going to have to manually correct and send feedback. But of course, you need to pace yourself during this period as to how many essays you are going to give versus multiple choice or automatic correcting exercises. So those are some tips that should be able to help you along the way. And I think the last tip that I would tell to teachers, or I would suggest to teachers, would be start really small. If you are attempting this for the first time, try not to get overwhelmed with all the possible tools. As I said, pick one or two and stick to them. Stick to what you and your students are comfortable with and gradually introduce additional tools if needed. And I would also suggest collaboration. One of the things that worked really well during the last period with my department was that we assigned roles, and so different persons were then responsible for different year groups, and that really helped maintain or reduce the stress in the department because we were now able to share. So during this period, I think collaboration, which of course is one of the key things for 21st century educators, we need to collaborate. We are not doing this thing by ourselves. And when we start sharing, we will recognize that the work is not as difficult. The task is not as daunting as it can seem. And we can do this if we just start and ask for help. Reach out to somebody who you know can do it, ask for the help. And of course, you can contact us on 21st Century Educators. We do try to assist as much as possible. So I do hope that these tips would have been useful. And I just want to say that we actually will have a document posted on the Caribbean Visionary Educators site with the details of these tips that we would have spoken about. So you can check that out.
So thank you very much, Ms. Pierre, for sharing your positive words with us today. And as we move forward in terms of this remote learning, I am sure that these words or these pieces of advice that you have given us today will assist us as we move forward in 2020 and beyond. So thank you very much. And on behalf of the CVE, thank you for being here with us. Take care.